How you doing today, folks? Now, first and foremost, there's been a lot of stuff online about Strider, and so I made a video basically talking about it all from my standpoint. And I really started to think about it. I want to put something a little more positive out there. So I'm going to share a story about me acquiring one of, if not my favorite knife of all time. I'm also going to do a hard use long-term review. I've had this knife for about 3 years or so. I carry it more than probably any other knife I own. I've put it through some absolute hell. I'm also at least the fourth owner of this knife, and they all put it through hell, and it still survives to this day as an absolute gem. So this is my Strider Knives SMF. Beautiful freaking patterning. I love this style, how it all matches with this badass tiger stripe Tonto blade. So, first and foremost, right, I found this knife in the groups. Somebody posted about it, and I messaged them immediately, tried to buy it. They were asking too much. To be fair here, I tried to lowball them, and they were like, dude, fuck you. I was, that's fair. This was pretty early in my whole collection thing or whatever, but so that whole deal fell through. But I never forgot about this knife. I had seen it pop up two more times, right? And probably a year, maybe even 2 years after the fact, I had still been thinking about this SMF. So I messaged the guy and I was like, hey, is this still available? I know it's probably really unlikely, but I'll give you your full value plus $100 for it right now. I can't get this knife out of my head. He's like, you snooze, you lose, man. I already sold it. Been sold for a long time. So then I created a in search of post. I posted a picture of the actual knife. I found out who he sold it to. I messaged that person. That person sold it. I messaged the other person. That person sold it. And this went on for a while. Now, not all of these people use the knife. So when I say that there's like four owners, there's four owners at least that I know for a fact beat this thing up. As far as it having how many owners, I think I messaged like 7 or 8 different people. So it's had quite a few different owners over the years. But over the period of months, I messaged a whole bunch of people and I tracked it down. And I've had this knife for years. I've loved it for years. You guys have seen it on the actual channel before. You've seen me stab it into shit, torture test it a little bit. This thing, dude, I love this knife. If you are on the fence about the Strider Knives SMF, first off, a couple different caveats. This is a big knife. Now, it isn't that big as far as the footprint, but because of how the actual Strider Knives design is, in SMF, I have friends of mine that have XL hands. And I mean, like, they have, in particular, I have 2XL hands, right? But I have 2XL hands to where it's really fat right here and really fat right here, but my fingers are short. So whenever I wear a 2XL glove, it's really tight on the actual palm, and I got this goddamn much sticking off every single finger. It's annoying as shit. So I have friends that have size XL hands that have really long, skinny, spider-looking fingers, right? And technically speaking, if you put my hand compared to theirs, their hand looks bigger. They can't fit this knife. It's too big for them. So the design, you probably are going to want a SNG because just the way this whole big fat thing is, it's probably not going to fit you. However, for me and my size 2XL hands, in particular with my big fat ass palms, this fits perfectly. There's a little bit sticking off the edge right here. If I bear up closer to it, there's more sticking off the edge. But for me, I like to be able to hold a knife in a nice relaxed position like this. And be like this, there is nothing sticking off of the edge. I take up the entire knife. Probably looks a little weird, but I can cut like this for hours with no hot spots, no issues, no nothing, just like a nice casual go. So for me, it's my ideal as far as carrying a knife, like ergonomically wise. So the caveat for some is a tremendous plus for me. I love the design of this knife. Now, as soon as I got it in hand, I was blown away. Everyone talks about the QC issues of Strider, and I understand that. They definitely do have some inconsistencies. But this one in particular is just so fucking smooth. You can middle finger flick it out. You can slow roll it out. Drops down, very, very nice. Slow rolls, very, very nice. You can do this. I normally fail at that, so that's great. I did not fail. I was concerned about that on camera. But like, okay, I'm doing pretty good. The action is fantastic. More than anything else, though, as a hard user, I love this. You have a nice thick blade stock, but it goes down very thin behind the edge. So it's very, very slicey. I have pride with this. There's little marks right there on the actual tip where you can see that. I'm also not the only person that's pride of this knife. Has really put it through hell, and it has survived in a way that is nuts. So let's go into the actual review now. It's 6 minutes in, so I apologize for that. Ergonomically, I already touched on. It's a 10 for me. This feels perfect. There is no hot spots. There is no cold spots. There is no warm spots. It just feels like perfection. I love it. This knife makes me happy. As far as edge geometry wise, if you want a super, super like laser beam, being able to like split hairs, Strider probably isn't it. I'm sure they can get that way, but from the actual factory, less so. Even this one, which is definitely not production, it's not full custom either. It's just heavily modified to be, in my opinion, pretty much perfect. Like, I love this damn knife. It is something that works really, really well. I have broken apart pallets. I have cut apart all sorts of stupid ass things, including 12 gauge sheet metal with this knife. Yes, I'm an idiot, I know. And it works, and it just fits amazingly. But it's not going to shave your freaking arm, at least not very well. You got to kind of saw into your arm to shave it, which doesn't feel great, and it'll give you fucking razor burn. But it will technically shave hair. It's not going to like shave your sea paper and everything else like that unless you modify the edge. But these knives are designed to work. So they process cardboard unbelievably well. They work amazing for actual hard use. And that is what they are designed for. So if they are designed for a specific task and they excel in that task but not others, I don't really see that as a flaw on the knife. You know, I have knives that are just super slicey and just, you know, can shave a hair, split a hair down, just do crazy ass stuff. And that's awesome. But those knives also won't do what this one does or anywhere close to it. So it's cool to have both things. Strider bills itself as a military folder and a hard use folder, and it 1000% excels at that. Now, as far as the size, this is a Strider Knives or a ProTech Strider collaboration PT Plus. It's a big knife. To be fair, this is also a small knife, but like, you know, the SMF's a big knife. Let's have it go up against the Chris Reeve Knives Umnumzan. Definitely bigger than the Umnumzan, however you say this. Again, this is a big knife to most people. It looks kind of small compared to the actual Strider. Today's carry is the Medford Praetorian H. Ah, some of my hair. That's nasty. It is pretty close to the same dimensions as the Medford Praetorian H. It is a little bit bigger, and it feels a lot bigger because of this big, fat, kind of extending handle. So that's definitely a thing. But it is a knife that, let's put that back in my pocket. It is a knife that I've used, I've abused, I have loved, and I've been offered a stupid amount of money. I think I paid like $500 for this. I've been offered $2,000 for it, and I turned it down flat. And I do not regret it. And let's be clear, folks, $2,000 is a full custom Strider range. That's a lot of money. That would be a crazy profit margin. But I fucking really tried to track this knife down. I fell in love with it immediately. I kind of shit the bed on the deal, and then I freaking spent years hunting it down. Like, this to me has a whole history that is worth $10,000 minimum. I'm never going to get that. So I'm just never going to sell it. I'm totally okay with that. As far as the carry, if you want a deep carry, knife or whatever you want to use for tactical and invisible gray man, at any one point in time, you're going to have that much hanging out of your pocket. So it's definitely not that. If you care about that, this is probably not the brand for you. Personally, I don't at all, so it doesn't bother me. As far as the actual carry, because this is so damn fat, it's basically going to take up your entire pocket. Could you fit other things in your pocket with it? Sure. Do I recommend it? Not really. Also, because of how this thing is, if you reach into your pocket, you're going to just grind against that, which doesn't feel very good when you do a dramatization purposes. Like, all red. Actually, not really. You can feel it, but I definitely don't see it on camera, so either way, it doesn't feel great to slide your hand into. So, bigger knife, but definitely it's not a problem for me, and it's probably not a problem for you. Normally speaking, I have my right pocket empty besides a knife. That's all I carry. That's why these scales aren't all scratched up or anything like that, but the blade is beat to shit, because this sits pristine and perfect in my pocket. It has little chips and shit right there because I've dropped it a couple different times. But otherwise, it looks pretty much perfect. But the blade does not, because this shit gets used. Now, as far as an overall review, right, as again, a long-term, as a hard-use piece, this is my favorite hard-use knife. The Umnumzan right here and this are pretty much dead tied. That being said, if I mean a really hard use, if I mean just doing genuinely stupid things, this beats the Umnumzan. Only because the Umnumzan will eventually break. If I'm shoving something in there and I'm really wrenching on it, prying apart it and everything else, it has a much thinner blade stock. It's still very durable. I have still pried with that knife and it's worked out just fine. But there are limitations that I know that I will succeed in snapping that tip off if I'm not careful. As in this one, I mean, could I do it? Probably, but I haven't yet. And I've tried. I've really put this knife through hell. So as far as a hard use knife, this is in many ways my absolute favorite. In gloves, because this is a bigger knife and this whole thing just locks your hand. This whole platform just locks your hand in so well. And in gloves, man, this and the Medford Praetorian, not Praetorian, and the Medford Fat Daddy, which I recently traded to my buddy Scott Miller, is my favorite knife ever to work with in gloves. It fits so well. It feels so good. You're just like, wow, I get how this was made and why this was made. It's amazing. Now, as far as an EDC roll, I EDC this knife all the fucking time. So for me, it's also a 10. For most people, it's probably too big or cumbersome or wide or whatever the case may be. So if you're not willing to dedicate an entire pocket to a knife, it's probably not the knife for you. But if you are, God, it is so good. It is such an amazing knife. Love Mick or hate him, the man makes an amazing fucking design. The man makes an amazing knife. Like this, again, it is one of my absolute favorites of all time. It is my favorite working knife, probably of all time. It is for damn sure my favorite working knife in gloves. It's an incredible knife. Now, with all that being said, this is not probably very surprising, but my score for this is another 10 out of 10. This is probably in my top 5 favorite knives of all time. And I'm someone that I buy, sell, and trade things on such a frequent basis. It's kind of ridiculous. Like, I have owned, bought, sold, and traded thousands of knives. I'm at the point now to where almost every knife on the market I have either owned or at the very least handled. And there's a lot of goddamn knives in the market, so that's a pretty impressive thing to say. And despite all that, top 5 of all time, and it's not even hard, like at all. Listing my top 10 through 20, that was hard. My top 5, immediately. I'd say this knife's probably number 3. But again, hard use, 1. All day long, 1. Amazing knife, number 1, 10 out of 10, and it earns it in so many regards. This is my grail, and it will never be sold. If you want to give me $10,000 for it, I'll sell it right the fuck now, but I'll still be sad about it. But anything short of that absurd, never gonna happen price, this is my fucking baby. I love this knife. And because it's a Strider and it's fucking durable, I just threw that shit straight into the wall. This microphone only picks up things in a short radius, so you probably couldn't hear it bang, but it fucking went bing, bing. I know it'll be fine. It is a durable knife. It is a beautiful knife. It is a functional knife. Hey, don't do that. My dog is trying to not eat the knife. You're gonna die. Like, don't do that. Oh god, I'm gonna have to go grab that. But it is an incredible piece that I think you will love. And if you don't, try the SMG or SNG. It's a smaller knife, but it's amazing. Try the ProTech PT Plus, which looks ridiculously tiny in my big ass hands. But this fits. To be clear, I have 2 fingers sticking off of the edge of this damn knife. But just the design is done so freaking well, even in this massively small form factor like that. It's just amazing. Strider knives are great knives. There's a lot of drama going on right now. For me, nothing takes away from the joy that that knife and his knives in general have brought me over the years. So for me, again, 10 out of 10. I love the knife. I love the brand. If you don't, that's fine. I'm not here to judge you. But me personally, fucking gold standard. As always, folks, I love you all. Please take care, and bye-bye.